The end of the year is almost upon us, which means that it's time to think about what we've consumed this year, be it movies, sports, TV shows, anime, manga, or in this situation, video games, and then list the top 10 ones that I've played this year. This means exactly what I say, all games are eligible for this list as long as the end result follows the following rules. Only one game per series, this doesn't count things connected to the same IP, so you can have the Mario Party and Mario Kart on the same list as they are different series under the same franchise. This ruling will make sense later. Half of this list must be either re-releases or new games, pretty straightforward, and only games that I have completed this year are eligible. Games that I haven't finished yet are eligible for next year. This is mainly directed to Metaphor since it's a long-ass fucking game. But with those rules set, let's get into it. But of course, spoilers for the following games. I won't lie, like most people I know, I kinda stopped playing Five Nights at Freddy's after the original trilogy ended. I would keep up with the franchise here and there, mainly to see what the fan games were coming out, and just overall news. It wasn't until Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach came out that I was fully invested into the series, even if that game was, honestly, pretty terrible. Where I'm going with this is that I really enjoyed Into the Pit. I played it, it's an incredibly short and incredibly fun game. I played it on all difficulties except for the hardest, but still haven't been able to get the free star, which honestly, skill issue. The story is very straightforward. You go to not Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, you go to Jeff's Pizza, even better place honestly, and go back in time by the ball pit, and while Arthur some monkey shines, your dad is replaced by Springtrap, which is still the funniest part. Imagine being the father and finding out a fucking serial killer in a rabbit costume has taken over your life and likely fucked your wife. It's actually insane. Getting back on track though, the pixel art and animations, especially on Springtrap, are so fluid and adds to the dread of exploring these areas, especially since sound plays such a big role in the game. But I do have a few problems with the game, and it's mainly the other animatronics just don't play a role. On higher difficulties, yes, but in your standard playthrough, only Chica will be a threat, as well as Springtrap. Speaking of Springtrap, he's really intimidating, but after some time, you learn how he works and how he functions. Unlike something like the Alien in Alien Isolation, he doesn't adapt. You can just use the same hiding spot 1,000 times and he'll just fall for it. I think there needed to be more ways to do it because the game's idea of difficulty is kind of lazy. Removing almost 90% of hiding spots and adding permadeath just feels cheap. But overall, it's a solid game and worth being in the 10th place spot. Last year, I played my first ever Fire Emblem game, unless you want to add the 2 spin-offs, Free Hopes and Smash Brothers of course. This game was very much different from what I was expecting. I will say though, it took me some time to get into this game. I came into this thinking that most Fire Emblem game systems worked at least similarly to Three Houses, but I was sure in for a surprise. But I didn't massively hate it. The Emblem Ring system was really cool, even though for the most part I only knew the ones in Smash, but it helps that I also enjoyed the gameplay with the break system. I did find the requirements for changing classes and getting skills a tad tedious, and all the other smaller things like cleaning the rings, rolling the ring gacha for better stats, and imbuing weapons, but unlike the only other game I've played, you can take on skirmishes and aren't put on the same time limit compared to Free Houses. I will say, the only one downside the game had, except for having a rather straightforward story, was how honestly bland half the roster was. Due to how the story was structured, almost every unit you get, especially on the second half, were either lords or retainers. I actually calculated it, and throughout all of the characters, despite our glorious Colgate mascot, there are 8 lords, 20 retainers, and 7 characters that don't actually fit in either category, one of them being a fell child and technically a retainer. 3 of them are optional unlocks, leaving Sadal and the best character Yunaka as the only ones not connected that are story relevant. But I'm willing to forgive the downsides the game has to simply because I think it's fun. And does really Burnett's existence really bring the game's quality down? I mean, I forgot he even existed before I uttered his name. Go back to eating leftovers, Stinky. But other than that, I enjoyed the little lobby and all the interactions you can have with the characters, so it's worthy of the 9th place spot. You know, I've always wanted to play these games. I had seen clips of these games, and it's wacky, insane, over-the-top theatrics always turned me on, like Travis seeing Sylvia. And playing it sure enough confirmed how I felt. It's wacky, it's over-the-top. You have to work for the money doing menial tasks and mini-games, and I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. Compared to the original game, however, it feels way more polished. I swear the first game loved bosses that can just instantly kill you and were just really cheap all around. Didn't help that I had stick drift on my Switch when playing the games, but regardless, the bosses were a blast-averse, which is the biggest point this game has going for it. You even have the return of the man himself, Destroy Man, and you get to verse him with the sword-wielding otaku disciple of Travis, Shinobu. But it's a shame that you only really get to play her and Henry once, but Henry's one is really funny, so I'm willing to forgive it. Overall, it's just more No More Heroes. Its presentation is better, the minigames are better, the exploration is toned down, though unfortunately. The gameplay is what I imagine sex feels like, and compared to the original game, this one is personal, because how dare Jasper Bat Jr. kill the beloved beefhead shop owner, Bishop Shedux. May he rest in peace. Blasting into the center place, it is Anton Blast. Man, it was a blast to play, pun intended. You play as Dynamite Anton or Annabelle, both play almost exactly the same as you run around, crash, smash, and blast your way through the worlds, trying to find the spirits that the Red Deficient Devil took from you. It's a super simple premise, and lets you get straight into the fast-paced platforming, which I'm thankful for. This game, just like Peach Tower, is a Wario Land-inspired game, but instead of focusing on continuing combos and getting P ranks, it's collecting chips and grabbing power-ups for the most part. You have 3 lives from the start, which increases later when you collect more chips and progress with the levels. And the levels have that little more replayability compared to Pizza Tower, having time trials and a challenging combo-extending mission, where you have to start from the beginning when you die, since there are no checkpoints. In a lot of ways, Anton Blast has carved its own niche, not needing to be called just a Wario clone, which is nice having an absolutely crazy finish, pushing the engine beyond its limits. I personally prefer Pizza Tower's ranking system over Anton Blast's health-based system, but it's still a really fun game, and keeps the player's attention with everything happening in a second, every second, for the 5 to 10 hours the game runs for. I still really didn't like the Bell boss. That thing can go fuck itself, seriously. Oh, and I also backed this game, so Xenoblade Propaganda is in the credits. You're thankful, the 10 Poppy fans. When I first heard this game was coming out, I was honestly ecstatic. I loved Mario & Luigi Dream Team. The first one I played, I clocked over 100 hours into that bad boy, so when it got announced that it was coming back, I was pumped, but a little worried since Alpha Dream went bankrupt in 2019, so I wasn't too sure who was making this game, and if they would be able to keep the consistency of Alpha Dream's products. And I gotta say, it was really fun regardless. It was full of life and soul. The moves have weight to them, and the exploration is fun. You get sent to the world of Concordia to link all the islands together, and Mario and Luigi's strong brotherly bond is the only thing that can do it. It's a little cheesy, but it's really cute, so I don't care. I will admit the story is pretty weak. You see the twist coming from a mile away, but it's a kid's game, so little Timmy's probably getting his mind blown every second. I still can't get over just how crazy the bro moves are in this game. You have them turning to UFOs, pretty simple. Then kicking shells, yeah, pretty normal, into slowing time down into a crawl and speed blitzing the opponent, and combining red and blue into purple. Gojo's Infinity is nothing compared to a pair of plumbers. And the new plug system has so much potential, limited by the player's imagination. You can go from little spike balls to multi-hit moves that cause shockwaves into massive spike balls around the end of the game. You also have some crazy ones like giving double turns, halving their recharge, giving them more charges, making you immortal for free hits. There's a lot you can do with it, and I really enjoyed it. But unfortunately, there are other games I played this year that are just so good, just like this game, so it's going to be in 6th place for me. Also, I'm in the editing phase right now, and I just want to add that the final boss's final form reminded me of Ganesha from Berserk when he used the man-made Bailet, which is genuinely based, that I got reminded of something that's also based. But yeah, now to the 5th place. Making it to the halfway mark is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, a game I genuinely thought would never come out. The original trailer for the game is still ringing in my mind, with Goku powering up and saying, Budokai Tenkaichi will return. It was just so hype. But was the game as hype as the trailer? Yeah, yes, it was. For almost an entire month of October, I played nothing but Sparky Zero. 5 to 6 hour sessions on my days off, versing friends, versing bots, collecting Dragon Balls, pogging at all the references. I felt like I was a kid playing the original games again. The biggest thing this game has over the originals, though, is the story in this game having the ability to, instead of having what-ifs, it's optional things where you do something in the game that changes the events of the game, turning into different timelines, going from something as simple as, Goku going Super Saiyan against Great Ape Vegeta, to something as cool as Gohan Black in the Future Trunks arc, and Trunks helping in the Tournament of Power. It's really cool how they did it, honestly, but not only that, there was also a new system where you can make your own Dragon Ball what-ifs, and I instantly made one where Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta gets dropped by Buu Saga Videl, as God intended. The gameplay wasn't super balanced when it first came out, but come on, who really cares? This is a Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi game. It's not meant to be balanced, and if anyone thinks it should, has their brain fried by competitive games, I'm sorry. And that's only touching the surface. There's also tournaments, outfits, special lines, consumables to make characters stronger and change the computer's AI. It's just a love letter to all the adults that played the games when they were children. And with the most recent patch fixing up issues from launch, like massive player menu and performance issues, this game's only going to get better and better. Every other anime fighter should take notes, because this is how you make a 3D anime fighter. In the 4th place is yet another Mario RPG, but since they're different franchises, I'm allowing it. But what can I even say that hasn't already been said about this game already? It's a genuinely great game, going to the island of Rogue Town for a vacation, but calling that place a vacation is wild. But hey, it is what it is. You get a magical MacGuffin map to find the stars and eventually open the 1,000-year door to face the Shadow Queen. On this journey, you meet all sorts of characters like Baby Yoshi that are aptly named Graggle, a Bum-Om with a more compelling story than most games nowadays, and Goombella. We don't talk about Goombella. This being my first Paper Mario game, I have actually fully played through. It is very different from a Mario and Luigi game, but I got the hang of the badge system pretty fast. I wasn't too sure where I was going half of the time, but there was usually a badge at the end, and hey, I was able to look like Waluigi at the end of this game, so it's already peak. Badges give you new moves, increasing power and defense, all sorts of things. It's basically the lifeblood of the game. Not to add all the cool movements like Mario becoming a paper plane, or a boat, or a little cylinder. There's also all these other things like minigames, a casino, an arena, quests. There's so much stuff, I can't keep up with it all. And it being a remake, there's also some little things they added, but I haven't gotten around to doing it all just yet. But I at least completed the Pit of Trials. Bone Tail was a decent challenge, as most of the game was, so with that all said and done, I think it was worthy of the 4th place mark. Last year, I said I thought that Infinite Warp would be my game of the year, but here it is in 3rd place. So what happened? Well, I'm still quite divided on how I feel about the game. The gameplay was incredible, a big step up compared to 7. The minigames are as fun as ever, the jobs fit the setting, Sujimon battles and Dodok Island were a blast to play. The new party members all were really fun additions, and add to the game in their own special ways. So why is it not in 1st place if I'm gassing up the game this much? Well, I'll be honest, I just didn't like the story. It's not the worst in the franchise, but it falls apart for me past the halfway mark. Ebina just isn't that engaging of an antagonist. He's just Diet Masato. I really didn't get the point of making another triangle of gangs like the Injin 3. Bryce worked better as he felt more imposing. And the biggest part, and this is more of a controversial opinion, but it felt more like a Kiryu game than Ichiban's. Chapter 8 and onwards, the game splits to having Kiryu and Ichiban separated. Each chapter will swap between the two until the final. The final half of the game for Ichiban gets no real content, just a new party member with Jungihan who was added last minute, and then just some small story content. Kiryu gets a whole arc where he has a bucket list and he wants to make amends before he dies of cancer. And I won't lie, I did choke up and almost cried a couple of times. And it was really good, but apart from that, you just have to deal with Ebina and him using Tartara to assist in his plans. Once again, VTubers ruin everything. But I'm willing to forgive it slightly, just for the incredible fight between Majima, Saejima, and Daigo. Overall, I like this game, and a lot of the aspects. It's a great farewell to Kiryu as a protagonist, but this isn't the first time they've tried to have Kiryu pass the torch, and the fact that a lot of the aspects of this game just follow 7, I'm worried that they might just keep it up in the direction, because let the man rest already. He's already fighting cancer, GG Studios. In second place is Astrobot, and man, what a game! It's just a really fun platformer for all ages. It's a game for kids, which they'll love, and it's filled with all these cameos throughout all of Sony's games, which adults will know, recognize, and love as well. A part of the game is just finding these cool cameos, especially for games that haven't felt love in a long time, like Jak and Daxter, Ape Escape, Sly Cooper, or just personal favorites of mine like Teddy, Aegis, or Spectre. Listen, I love Ape Escape, okay? But collecting all the robots is just one aspect. What about the gameplay? And it's best to say that it's a mix of some of the funnest platforming I've done in a game in a long time and just flexing the engine. So many random little doodads to smack and spin around, destructible maps, and interactive maps to grow plants or make a sapling turn into a wrapping tree. The game is filled with life and power-ups which interact with the world. One of my favorite is the mouse ability, because it shows the sense of care and scale the developers put into the game. It's one thing to say I see a little gingerbread city, and to shrink down and just explore it, and you can do that in Astrobot. It's incredible, and this almost got the first place, but it just barely lost due to me feeling more emotion for the final place. So let's talk about that. But first, going down is the list of games that I played this year. Some that I didn't finish and are eligible for next year, and just games that I did play but are replays and are not eligible for this list. With that all shown, let's talk about the one honorable mention, being Death Note: The Killer Within. It's a really fun social deduction game. It has proximity chat and is an absolute blast to play with friends. Be you a detective or L trying to find Kira and bring them to justice, or being Kira and his follower and trying to kill L. It's a really fun game, but isn't that fun in a public game? Only really with friends. I've found since there's no limit to human speech, people get quite aggressive really fast, and not so kind words are said, and that's really no fun. But with all that said and done, let's talk about the first place spot. Yep, this might come to a surprise to some, since the other Atlus RPG is winning all the awards right now. And I'll admit, if I completed the game earlier, it might have been on this list as well, but it wouldn't have taken this game's rightful spot in the top 10. This game is a faithful remake at a glance, and adds stellar voice acting performances, and feels like the definitive voice for most of these characters, but I'll always prefer Akihiko's original voice actor. The gameplay brings the polish from Persona 5, and changes it up, but it does come with a small downside of being way easier, without making up for the whole Virgie system they made. I also thought it was a shame that we didn't get to see other clubs come back like Kendo, but other than that, it's just more polished modern experience. Be that good or bad, it is a personal preference. I've always liked either, so I can go back to the original Persona 3 if I wanted to have that pure experience, but I understand the dislike. Future Personas are easier, and making them insanely fucking broken is as easy as ever. Elizabeth is as hard as she was, and add Joker to that with episode Aegis, and you get 2 insane fights in one game. Exploring Tartar Source is more fun now, adding Menard doors, Chance Time adding the major arcanas and ways to get characters to catch up in levels. But a part of me kind of misses the fatigue system, as it added to the story in its own way, even if it was a little annoying. But without the system changes, Social Links being fully voiced now, and just how good the game looks, is still the same Persona 3 story, which is probably the best in the franchise. A part of me putting this in first place is a mix of me loving Persona 3 story. It tells, and it's a bit of nostalgia as well. Although this is a remake, it's still a remake for a game that I love and still do. Though, sadly, Nyx isn't as compelling as Adachi, and I will fight on this. But with Persona 3 being crowned first place, the video is now over. And thank you to anyone who has been watching my videos throughout the year, and even if this is your first video, I also want to thank you for coming out and supporting me with a review. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy me yapping on about things, then why not give me a like and subscribe? We're close to finishing the diary, so who knows where we go from there. But anyways, I'll see you in 2025. Happy early new year.